Welcome to Yeshua's Words of Love. Chapter 5. Truth of being human. Mankind does not know what awaits him. I, through my Yeshua Miriam spirit of love, will reveal the truths in this chapter that will make wisdom come alive in the heart. Each one reading further must be willing to lay down his old ways and follow me fully in what I set as demands for rebirth. Otherwise, it will not be possible at all. Only those that zealously set their way to these truths will be saved. Firstly, you should recognize me, the Creator, as giving you your direction. Secondly, you must honor me as the fullness of the law. This means that everything happening to you sprouts from the law of sin and atonement, the law of eternal life, the law of knowledge of good and evil, the law of love and the law of power from above. Without the knowledge of these laws, no one shall enter the gates of the city as a bride. The law of sin and atonement was discussed extensively in Volume 1 of the New Bible, and I will say again, every sin requires humility and forgiveness, for a person can live boldly. Therefore, with all your strength you must guard against violation of love, thus staying on the path of this law. Become free thereof by deciding only to act in love. The law of eternal life has also been discussed, namely that no soul ever perishes, because my eternal, perfect will has established it, and therefore it will always live with me, although in different forms. Each one will recognize the law of knowledge of good and evil by the fact that man experiences an obligation as soon as he is informed of any matter, whether the obligation is a responsibility, an emotion, or a desire. This law requires that when you realize what a situation involves, you must make a decision. You must always ask my will and accept that choice to stay in the good. This law came into being when my counterpart began acting in darkness because at that moment evil arose. Until that moment, the created only acted creatively as work. No choices were needed. But now life is filled with choices that sometimes feels like they follow each other ceaselessly. However, you can bring an end to it by giving love her rightful place in your heart and to study and consider everything by the conviction of love. The law of love is therefore the following important law. Every creature was created by and through love. That means as much as in the eternal moment of love. Therefore the home and origin of every living being is love. The true nature of all things is love as well. The only moment of peace is when a being lives in love. Love is therefore the source and ground principle of all. And since all of my divinity, which consists of male and female power, arose, I, Yeshua Miriam's spirit, am the source of love. Love is our point of unification, because it was the starting point of our and your existence. This was where you went out from us, and therefore will also be where you can return to. Only by full acceptance of your source's existence, you will be able to reunite again. Faith herein brings you to life with a will and a power to receive it. I promise this to every spirit who wishes to be one with me or us. Take love as your everything, and from it the eternity of peace will sprout forth for you. Finally, the law of power from above is your refuge. Above is me wherever I am located for you. Above is the purest part of your heart, but also exists in the highest heavens of existence. It is one and the same when you awaken the spirit. The awakening is the moment when you receive power to know where you are. With your association with me in love, all parts of your being will fuse with me, and you take the decision to hand everything back to me, what I have entrusted you, so that we, as a unit, may again act and create. There is so much life that still must be granted a chance to come to that point. Only when the first surrender and pave the way will the earth follow. Realize that all living must return to love to again receive their truly spiritual status or condition. In that state, names are, like time in a different order, not as appropriate as on earth. A spirit's name is not really everything. The essence of the spirit makes it recognizable. With the affiliation of love and power, you again enter into the order in which your radiance is more important than your true identity. Therefore, everyone shall recognize each other in love, without discussion or introduction. For I am everyone's source, and the similarities will make the one recognizable to the other, although the differences are my characteristics as well. Therefore, look toward your neighbor with eyes of love and recognize my power I placed in that human, and thereby realize that you are as much a part of me and recognizable, if you stay in love. I, Yeshua Miriam's spirit, your source of love, promise you, because it is a law, that you will be equal with me if you just focus your will and being on love. All things are possible for you in me. Power in eternity is still incomprehensible or unclear to you, but only when you receive it, you will realize the greatness and life therein. Follow these laws faithfully, and it will be your way of existence, without a will to live away from it. This is life, and therefore the truth of being human. I have now only started this chapter, and that is why I will now reveal more secrets about masculinity and femininity, so that everyone with this and prior knowledge can understand his rebirth and reach it. Life is only possible with the merger of masculinity's and femininity's power. Other life forms seemingly exist without it, but in reality, I never let these two parties be absent. Only then it would be within the eternal order. Look at the flower with the internal germ and the male crown. Thus pollination takes place for the seed to bring forth fruit. The working is the same in mammals. The male is the crown of the respective creation, but without the female ovary. Life is not eternal, and power can gain nothing. Why was this created? Firstly, as a resemblance of me, Yahweh, and my power source. The roles have the same value in the small, but they cannot exist or function without the original givers of power. Secondly, the prevalence is based on cooperation of love as law to the giving of power. All that live must comply with that law. Thirdly, created life is dependent on a descent, and only if it has its own species or example, the spiritual power will produce similarity. No spiritual strength can be found in any engineered or cross-pollinated varieties. Everything that did not originate by my creative abilities through man will not be able to reproduce with perpetual, perennial power. Therefore, do not tamper with my will for persistent existence. Only maintain that what I have placed in your care. Male power brings stability and healing abilities regarding uncertainty, confusion, and inconsistency. If this power is honored, peace will be maintained. Female power, however, brings a security for compassion, faith, and freedom. That is freedom of transgression and negative emotions, by accepting the good, and to live accordingly. United, these forces can bring any being to perfection. However, if one of these two forces in the perfect condition moves towards the negative, the entire perfect fruit can grow into the negative. Thus pray to remain stuck to the anchor of faith, Miriam, growth to perfection to prevail. I as Miriam am your incentive and provider. I as Yeshua am your maker and way. Together your being will be filled to live in love. Wisdom is the light, and so you gain power. Each being is destined to reach the power that will ascend them to higher levels of light. Therefore remain on the way if you want to progress to the heaven. Herewith this chapter is completed. Everyone who recognizes and lives according to the male and female forces in their lives will reach union with us or me. I am always and everywhere, and therefore every will be recognized and rewarded. Be the worker of faith that sanctifies his ways in love. Your reward will be according to body and soul, and you will never experience shortages. Gratitude for this knowledge leads to more insight, and I will feed every drop.